We decided to adopt a child, but what happened next destroyed our marriage. It started on a rainy evening, one of those quiet nights where the world slows down. The kind of evening where the steady rhythm of raindrops against the window almost feels like nature's way of making you reflect. I was sitting on the couch, staring out at the darkening sky. The only sound besides the rain was the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Angela had just finished making dinner, and even after a long day of work, she still managed to prepare one of her signature meals. It was one of the things I loved about her, the way she would always make time for something she cared about, no matter how exhausted she was. She walked into the living room, a plate of food in her hands, and sat down beside me. The warmth from the plate radiated through the air, but Angela's hands were cold from the kitchen's air conditioning. She set the plate down on the coffee table and then turned to face me, placing her cold fingers on my hand. "Frank," she said, her voice soft. But there was something in it that caught my attention. "I've been thinking, a lot actually, about us." I looked at her, trying to gauge what was going on behind her eyes. Angela had always been a thinker. She would often get lost in her own head, contemplating everything from small daily occurrences to the bigger picture of life. But tonight, there was something different about her tone. It was more serious, more purposeful. "What are you thinking about?" I asked, sitting up straighter and turning to her. I could tell this wasn't just idle chatter. She sighed, her gaze dropping to the floor for a brief moment before she looked back up at me. "I've been thinking about our future. I've been thinking about what we want out of life. And I've come to a conclusion." She paused for a moment, like she was gathering her thoughts. Angela had a way of making me feel like every word she said mattered. She never spoke lightly, and when she finally spoke again, I could tell it was something that had been weighing on her heart for some time. "I think we should adopt a child," she said simply. But her words hit me like a freight train. Adoption. I hadn't expected this. We'd talked about it in passing over the years, but it had always been more of a hypothetical conversation. I never really thought Angela was serious about it. We didn't have kids, and while it was never a point of contention, we had settled into a life that didn't require children. Or so I thought. She looked at me, waiting for a response, and I could see the excitement in her eyes, mixed with a little bit of nervousness. I could tell she was both hopeful and uncertain, like she wasn't sure how I would react. The silence stretched on for a moment as I processed what she had just said. I wasn't shocked by the idea, but the weight of the decision hit me instantly. Adoption wasn't something you could just casually decide on. It would change everything. Our lives, our home, our relationship. It was a massive decision. One that would affect not just us, but the child we would bring into our world. But as I looked into her eyes, I realized she wasn't asking me for permission. She was asking me to join her in something that she felt was important. She wanted to bring a child into our lives, a child who needed love, safety, and a home. And I knew she had always been the type of person to want to help those in need. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, my voice steady, but laced with the natural skepticism of someone facing an unfamiliar path. Angela nodded, her eyes softening with the conviction that she had already made up her mind. "But Frank, we have so much love to give. And there are so many children out there who need a family. I think it's time for us to give that. We can provide for a child in ways that many others can't. I think it's what we're supposed to do." I sat back, my fingers still holding hers, but my mind was racing. Angela had always been an empath. She would always feel deeply about the world's problems, and whenever something stirred her passion, she'd find a way to act on it. I could see that this was no different. It wasn't just a casual whim. This was something she truly believed in. "I never thought about it like that," I said quietly, taking in the magnitude of her words. "But you're right. We have a good life. We're stable. We could provide for a child. We have the time, the space, and most importantly, the love to give. I never thought we would take this step, but I think I'm ready if you are." Angela's face lit up, and in that moment, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was as if I had just opened the door to a new chapter in our lives, and despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, I knew we were in this together. Her smile was infectious, and the excitement in her eyes reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. She had this ability to see the good in the world, to see potential where others might only see obstacles. "Thank you, Frank," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "I knew you'd understand. I've been thinking about this for a while now, and it just feels like the right time." We sat there for a while, The world outside still drenched in rain, but inside, it felt like a warm promise had been made. We didn't have all the answers, and there were so many unknowns, but in that moment, it didn't matter. Angela and I were about to embark on a journey that would change everything, and I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone else. It was the beginning of something neither of us had fully expected. But deep down, we both knew it was meant to be a family, our family, and whatever came next, we would face it together. At first, everything felt surreal. We had talked about adoption for years, and the idea of becoming parents seemed almost too good to be true. When the agency called us and told us that they had a child that matched what we had been looking for, we could hardly believe it. I remember when we first met Noah, our son. He was a 5-year-old boy, small for his age, with curly brown hair and big, cautious eyes. He didn't say much, but his little hand grabbed mine when we sat down on the couch together. I could tell right then and there that my life was about to change forever. At first, everything seemed perfect. We were the ideal family in the eyes of everyone around us, new parents just getting started. My wife, Angela, was thrilled. She had always been the more nurturing one, and it was clear to me how much she had longed for this. She was fantastic with Noah, gentle and understanding. But as much as I tried to keep up, something inside me felt off. I didn't know if it was the pressure of being a parent or the stress of adjusting to a completely new lifestyle, but I started feeling distant from Angela. It wasn't that I didn't love Noah. He was a great kid, smart, quiet, and easy to get along with. But there was something about having a child, someone so dependent on you, that changed the dynamic between Angela and me. We used to be able to talk about anything, but now, most of our conversations revolved around diapers, schedules, and school choices for Noah. I missed the days when it was just the two of us. We had shared so much together. Our relationship had been built on the freedom to do whatever we wanted. Now, I didn't even recognize who we had become. Angela seemed to thrive in her new role. She was a natural mother, and I could see how much Noah adored her. But for me, it felt like I was struggling to find my place. I would help out when I could, of course, but something about the whole situation just felt overwhelming. The pressure to be a perfect father, to be everything that Noah needed, was weighing heavily on me. One evening, after putting Noah to bed, Angela and I sat on the couch, silently scrolling through our phones. There was a moment of tension in the air that I couldn't quite place. I had been thinking about work, about how much had changed, about how disconnected I had felt from everything. I finally put my phone down and looked at Angela. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Angela glanced at me, her face softening. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. It's just I feel like I'm drowning sometimes," I said, feeling the weight of the words I was saying. "We've changed so much, and I don't know if I'm ready for this." "Are you?" She looked at me with a mix of concern and frustration. "Of course I'm ready. I've wanted this for so long. I've been dreaming of this, Franklin. I don't understand why you're questioning everything now." I sat there, unable to explain the storm that was building inside of me. It wasn't that I didn't love Noah, or that I didn't want to be a good father, but I felt like I was losing a part of myself in the process. I missed the intimacy we used to have. I missed the spontaneity and the freedom. I missed being able to just sit with Angela and talk about our hopes and dreams without having to worry about who would pick up Noah from school or what time we needed to start dinner. "I'm just scared," I said quietly. "I don't know how to balance everything. I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this." Angela's expression softened, and she moved closer to me. "Franklin, I understand, but we're in this together. I'm not going to leave you to do it all on your own. We're a team." I nodded, but deep down, I still felt that nagging doubt. No matter how hard I tried to convince myself that everything would be okay, the strain was becoming more apparent. Our once easygoing marriage now felt like a constant negotiation of time and energy. And it wasn't just me feeling it. I could see the frustration in Angela's eyes too, even though she was trying so hard to keep everything together. In the weeks that followed, it seemed like we were both trying harder than ever. But no matter how much effort we put in, something was slipping through our fingers. The tension between us grew, and I began to notice little things that bothered me, things I had never cared about before. Angela seemed to be spending more time with Noah, talking about his needs, his wants, and his future. It was as if she was getting further away from me, and I didn't know how to bring her back. One night, I found myself lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how much things had changed. I loved Angela, and I loved Noah, but I couldn't ignore the sense of loneliness that was creeping in. I wanted to be the man I'd always been, the one who could support and protect his family, but right then I didn't feel strong at all. The next morning, I tried to bring it up to Angela, but the conversation didn't go as I had hoped. "We need to talk about us," I said, as we were sitting at the kitchen table over breakfast. Angela glanced up at me, her expression guarded. "About what?" "I feel like we're drifting apart," I said, unsure of how else to say it. "I feel like you're putting everything into Noah, and I'm just here. I don't know where I fit in anymore." Her face immediately hardened, and I could tell that I had struck a nerve. "Franklin, what are you saying? You think I don't care about you? I've been working so hard to make sure Noah feels loved and supported, and now you're telling me I'm neglecting you." I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I also saw the anger. She was upset, but so was I. I didn't know how to make her understand. "I'm not saying that. I'm saying I miss us. I miss what we had." Angela took a deep breath and stood up, walking over to the window. "I don't know what you want from me, Franklin. I can't go back. We have a child now, and I'm trying my best." "I know you're trying," I said, standing up too, "but I need more. I need to know that we're still in this together, not just as parents, but as a couple." Angela turned to me, her face filled with emotion. "I don't know if I can give you what you want anymore, Franklin. Things are different now." And in that moment, I realized that we were at a crossroads. It wasn't just the adoption that had changed use, it was the life we had built together. The one we thought we would always have. I didn't know where we would go from here, but I knew that I needed to find a way to make things right. In the weeks that followed, things between Angela and I seemed to slowly get worse. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were living two separate lives under the same roof. I would try to talk to her, but it felt like she was always busy with Noah, and when she wasn't with him, she seemed so distant, like she was lost in her own world. There were moments when I'd catch her staring at the wall, deep in thought, and I would wonder if she was thinking about the same things I was. The last conversation we had about our marriage had been tense, and neither of us had really gotten anywhere. The things that used to come so easily to use, communication, connection, intimacy, were slipping further and further away. One Friday evening, I came home from work later than usual, tired from a long week. I wasn't expecting to find Angela in the same place I left her that morning, but there she was, sitting at the kitchen table, her hands folded in front of her, staring at her phone. Noah was already in bed, and the house was eerily quiet. I sat down at the table, trying to think of something to say, but nothing came to mind. The silence was thick, and it felt like we were both afraid to break it. I cleared my throat. Angela, she didn't look up at me right away. Instead, she took a deep breath, and then raised her eyes to meet mine. "What is it, Franklin?" I noticed her tone was sharp, like she was bracing for something. It stung. "I don't know. I don't know what happened to us." She exhaled slowly, almost as if she had been expecting this conversation. "You've said that before, Franklin, and nothing changes. I'm trying, Angela," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "But I feel like we're just two strangers living together, raising Noah. I miss you. I miss what we had." She looked down at her hands, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. "I miss it too," she said quietly. "But I don't know how to fix it. It's like we're both drowning, and neither of us knows how to save the other." I could feel the tension in the air, a weight that I couldn't shake. "So what do we do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Do we just keep going like this, or do we do something?" Angela was silent for a long time. I watched her, waiting for her to say something, anything. Finally, she shook her head. "I don't know, Franklin. I don't know if I can keep pretending like everything's okay when it's not. Maybe I'm just not the woman I was before." I felt my heart drop in my chest. "You're still the same person, Angela. You're just adjusting. We both are. But we need to talk. We need to be real with each other." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "I'm tired, Franklin. I'm so tired. I feel like I'm juggling so many things, being a mother, a wife, a person, and I'm barely keeping it all together. And you, I feel like I'm losing you, like you're slipping away, and I don't know how to bring you back." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I knew she was struggling, but hearing it all laid out so plainly made everything feel so much more real. I realized, in that moment, how much I had been neglecting her, how much I had taken her for granted, assuming she would always be the strong one, the one who could handle everything. "I'm sorry, Angela," I said, my voice breaking. "I should have been there for you more. I should have been paying attention. I know you're doing your best, but I've been so caught up in my own head. I haven't been there for you the way I should have." She shook her head slowly. "We're both to blame, Franklin. This isn't just your fault. It's not about blaming anyone, it's about us trying to fix what's broken. And I don't know if we can." I wanted to say something. Anything that would make it all better, but I couldn't find the words. All I could do was sit there, staring at her, feeling the weight of our marriage and the burden of the choices we'd made. I wanted to believe that things could get better. I wanted to believe that we could find a way to reconnect, to rebuild the bond that had once been so strong. But deep down, I wasn't sure. The next few days were a blur of strained conversations, awkward silences, and half-hearted attempts at resolution. Angela and I would talk about Noah, about the household. But it was like we were avoiding the real Shwethi issue of us, the issue of how we had drifted so far apart. One evening, Angela sat down next to me on the couch, her eyes tired but determined. "Franklin, I don't think we can do this anymore," she said softly. My heart sank. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't think we can keep pretending that everything's okay. I love you, Franklin, but we're not the same people we were before. We're not the same couple." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't know what to say, how to fix this. All I could do was nod, my throat tight with emotion. "I don't want to lose you, Angela," I said quietly, "but I don't know how to make things right. I don't know how to fix this." Angela's face softened, but her eyes were filled with sorrow. "I don't know if there is a fix, Franklin. I really don't." And in that moment, I realized just how broken we had become. The days that followed felt like they moved in slow motion. Every morning, I woke up beside Angela, but we might as well have been oceans apart. There were no more shared smiles, no more meaningful conversations. It was all just a routine going through the motions for the sake of keeping everything intact, but nothing was truly working. We didn't fight, not in the way that would make things explode. Instead, we simply grew quieter. Our communication had turned into a series of short, clipped exchanges about daily logistics. Who was picking up groceries? Who would do the dishes? Who would put Noah to bed? It was like we were both too exhausted to confront what was hanging in the air. The fact that we were on the brink of something we both feared but couldn't quite face. I started to retreat even further into myself. Work became an escape, an easy place where I didn't have to think about the tension that had become our new normal. And Angela, she became more withdrawn. I'd catch her sometimes looking at her phone or staring off into space, and I could tell she was thinking about something, maybe someone else. It gnawed at me, the suspicion that she might already be emotionally checked out of our marriage. I didn't want to believe it, but every day it seemed more and more likely. It all came to a head one Saturday afternoon. I had been out for a walk to clear my mind, trying to piece together how I could fix things, when I came back to the house earlier than expected. The moment I walked in the front door, I froze. Angela was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand, but it wasn't the phone that caught my attention, it was the conversation she was having. Her face was flushed, and I could hear snippets of the conversation, a voice on the other end of the line. Someone she was speaking to with a tenderness I hadn't heard in months, maybe even years. "I know," she said softly, almost a whisper. I don't know what to do anymore. I love him, but I don't think I'm in love with him anymore. Things aren't the same, and I can't keep pretending like they are." I felt like the breath was knocked out of me. My mind raced, and a pit opened up in my stomach as the words hung in the air. I tried to stay still, trying to process what I had just heard, but I couldn't. I had to know who she was talking to. I took a step forward, but Angela must have heard me because she quickly ended the call and put the phone down on the table, her hands trembling slightly. "Franklin," she said, her voice caught between shock and guilt. "I didn't." "Who was that?" I interrupted, my voice shaking. "Who were you talking to, Angela?" She didn't immediately answer. Instead, she avoided my gaze, her eyes shifting around the room like she was looking for an escape. The silence between us stretched for what felt like forever, and I could see the walls she had built up around herself, a wall I didn't know how to tear down. "It's not what you think," she finally said, though I wasn't sure if I believed her. "Not what I think," I repeated, my frustration rising. "You were talking to someone like you had feelings for them, like I don't even exist." She bit her lip, hesitating, and then, as if making a decision, she looked me in the eyes. It's someone I've been talking to. I met him a while ago, Franklin. And I'm sorry I never meant for this to happen. But I've been feeling so alone, so empty, and I didn't know how to deal with it. The words hit me like a blow to the chest. I didn't know what to say or how to react. My mind was racing. This wasn't just an emotional affair. This was a betrayal of everything we had worked for, of the trust we had built over the years. You're seeing someone else? I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. Are you in love with him? Angela's face crumpled, and she stood up, pacing nervously. No, Franklin, I'm not in love with him. I never meant to fall into this, I swear. But I felt so distant from you for so long, and I didn't know how to fix it. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could make me feel seen. The betrayal stung even more knowing that she had felt so disconnected from me. I had been so absorbed in my own pain and confusion that I hadn't even noticed the signs. I hadn't been there for her the way I should have been. So this person, he's just someone to fill the gap I left? I asked, my voice laced with bitterness. I didn't mean for it to sound like that, but it just came out. The hurt was so overwhelming that I couldn't hold it back. Angela looked down, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. It's not about him. It's about me, about how lost I felt in this marriage. I didn't know who else to turn to, Franklin. I could see the tears welling up in her eyes, and my anger melted into something else, something deeper. A mix of heartbreak and frustration that I couldn't contain. The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted with everything, was telling me that she had felt completely alone in our relationship, and I hadn't even noticed. I didn't know what to say next. Part of me wanted to yell at her, demand to know why she couldn't come to me before, why she had turned to someone else. But another part of me knew that this was my fault too. I hadn't been the husband she needed, the partner she had once relied on, and now, I didn't know how to fix it. The silence between us was suffocating. Neither of us knew how to make sense of the mess we had created. The silence stretched between us, a heavy, suffocating thing that neither of us could escape. Angela had sat down again, her hands folded in her lap, her face pale as she waited for my response. I could feel the weight of the situation crushing me from all sides, but no words came to me. What could I say? What could I possibly say that would fix this? I wanted to scream, to let out all the anger and frustration that had been building inside of me. But instead, all I could do was sit there, frozen, looking at the woman I had once loved so deeply and wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Finally, Angela broke the silence. Franklin, she whispered, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. You've been a good husband to me. I don't know why I did this, but it's not about you. It's about me. I have been so lost, so confused, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I closed my eyes, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. How had we gotten here? How had our relationship deteriorated so completely without either of us noticing? Angela, I said softly, my voice raw. You didn't trust me enough to come to me. We've always talked about everything, or at least we used to. Why didn't you come to me when you were feeling so alone? Why did you turn to someone else? She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could fix myself on my own, but I couldn't. And by the time I realized that, I was already in too deep. I didn't want to hurt you, Franklin, but I was already hurting. I didn't know where else to turn. I rubbed my face with my hands, trying to process everything she was saying. I had never imagined something like this could happen to us. We had built our lives together, brick by brick, and now it felt like everything was crumbling. Do you love him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Angela hesitated, the guilt and confusion evident on her face. I don't know, she finally said, her voice shaky. I don't know what I feel anymore. I care about him, but I don't know if it's love. But I do know that I've been running from something, and I've been running from you, Franklin. From us. I sat back, my mind reeling. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't just having an affair. She had been emotionally checked out of our marriage long before this. She had been running, and I had been too blind, too preoccupied with my own feelings to see it. I don't know what to say, Angela, I admitted, my voice breaking. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if we can fix this. Angela reached out for my hand, her fingers trembling as she touched mine. I don't know either, Franklin. I wish I had all the answers, but I want to try. I want to figure this out. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose what we had. I pulled my hand away gently, not because I didn't care, but because I needed space. I needed time to think, to process everything she had just laid out in front of me. I don't know if we can just go back to what we were, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know if I can just forget about all of this, Angela. You broke something in me. The words were harder to say than I had expected. I had spent so long holding on to the belief that everything would work out, that our love would be enough to overcome anything. But now, I wasn't so sure. I wasn't sure about anything. Angela nodded, her face a mixture of sorrow and resignation. I understand. I know I can't expect everything to go back to normal. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Her apology hung in the air, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Not for me. I needed time to process, to figure out if this was something I could ever forgive. I think we both need time, I said quietly. Time to figure out what we want. Time to figure out if we can ever get back to where we were. Angela nodded again, her eyes filled with unshed tears. I don't want to lose you, Franklin. I never wanted to hurt you. I know, I interrupted, my voice softer now. But this is a lot. This isn't something that just goes away with a simple apology. She sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I know. I'll do whatever it takes. I just hope we can figure this out. I don't want to give up on us. The room was filled with a heavy silence after that. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't sure what the future held. I didn't know if Angela and I could recover from this, or if the damage had already been done. All I knew was that our marriage had changed in a way I couldn't undo, and I wasn't sure if I could move forward the same way I had before. But one thing was certain, we couldn't go back to how things were. Whatever came next, it was going to take more than apologies. It was going to take real work, and even then, I wasn't sure it would be enough. The distance between us had become so vast, so deep, that I didn't know if there was any way to bridge it. All I could do was wait and hope that somewhere, deep down, we still wanted the same thing. But for now, it seemed like that hope was the only thing keeping us from completely falling apart. The silence in our house was deafening as I stood there, frozen in place. I couldn't shake the image of Angela's face, her eyes full of guilt and fear. I was angry, of course, but there was something else, something I couldn't quite place. Part of me wanted to scream, to throw everything in her face and demand answers. But another part of me, well, it felt betrayed. And the worst part was, I didn't know what to do about it. Angela had always been the love of my life. I thought we had something special. We had been together for almost 10 years, married for 7, and had been through thick and thin together. The decision to adopt was supposed to be the next chapter in our lives, the one that would bring us closer together. But now, it felt like everything was crumbling. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to know everything, the details, the time, the reasons why. But when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. My throat was dry, my mind racing. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. Franklin, Angela whispered again, her voice shaky. She stepped closer, her hand outstretched toward me, but I took a step back instinctively. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want her to explain herself. I just wanted to be left alone. I don't know what to say, she murmured, her voice cracking. I never meant for it to happen like this. I'm so sorry. Sorry. That word. It was supposed to make everything better, right? But it didn't. It felt empty. Her apology couldn't fix what had already been broken. How long? I finally managed to ask, the words coming out like gravel in my throat. How long has this been going on? Angela hesitated, her eyes flickering to the ground. A few months, she confessed quietly. I didn't want it to happen, but it did. I didn't know how to stop it. A few months. I couldn't even process that information properly. We had been talking about adoption, about a child we could bring into this world, and she had been carrying on with someone else, someone who wasn't me. It didn't make sense. The anger inside me bubbled up again, and I fought to control it. Who is he? I asked, my voice low but sharp. The person you've been seeing behind my back? Angela winced at my words, but she didn't look away. It was never about him, Franklin. It was about me, about something inside me I wasn't dealing with. But I swear, I never stopped loving you. You're my husband, and I never wanted to hurt you. Love. The word that used to make me feel warm inside now made my stomach churn. How could she say she loved me and still do this to me? I didn't know if I could believe her anymore. I don't know if I can believe you, I muttered, more to myself than to her. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Angela looked crushed, as if I had just ripped her heart out. "Please, Franklin," she begged, her eyes brimming with tears. "I made a mistake. I love you, and I want to fix this. Please don't throw everything away." The desperation in her voice hit me harder than anything else. I could see how much she was hurting, but that didn't change what she had done. I wasn't sure if I could move past this, or if I even wanted to. Fix this. I laughed bitterly. "How do you fix something like this, Angela? I don't even know where to start. You've broken something that can't be fixed with an apology or a few tears." The room was heavy with the weight of our words. We stood there in silence for a long moment, neither of us sure what to say next. Finally, Angela spoke, her voice small. "What do we do now?" I didn't have an answer. I was lost. I didn't know what to do with myself, let alone what to do with her, with us. Everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. "I don't know," I said, the words hollow. "I don't know." The next few days passed in a blur. I went to work, came home, ate dinner in silence, and went to bed. We didn't talk much. We both knew that things had changed, but neither of us knew how to handle it. I could see the strain in Angela's face, the way she kept glancing at me, as if waiting for me to say something. Anything. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to forgive her, and I wasn't ready to move on. I spent hours thinking about our relationship, about how we had gotten here. I couldn't help but wonder if there had been signs all along, things I had missed or ignored. It didn't matter now. The damage was done. And then, one evening, after I had gotten home from work, Angela asked if we could talk. We sat down at the kitchen table, the same place where we had once planned our future, talked about our hopes, and dreamed of the life we would have together. Now, it felt like a graveyard of broken promises. "I don't want to keep living like this," she said softly. "I don't want to be the person who hurt you. I don't want to lose you, Franklin." Her voice cracked, and I could see the pain in her eyes, but I wasn't sure if I could look past the betrayal. Could I ever see her the same way again? Could I trust her enough to rebuild what we had? "I don't know," I replied, my voice shaking. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Angela. You've broken something in me, and I don't know if it can be fixed." The silence between us grew thick again. Neither of us knew what to say next, but I knew one thing: things would never be the same. The days following that conversation were filled with an eerie silence. Angela tried, of course. She would leave little notes for me, saying how sorry she was, how she wanted to fix things. Sometimes she would cook dinner, trying to recreate the warmth we had in the past, but it never felt right. The absence of our old rhythm was palpable. The laughter, the inside jokes, the way we used to talk for hours about everything and nothing, it was all gone, replaced by this heavy, suffocating silence. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was living with a stranger. Every time I looked at Angela, I saw the woman who betrayed me. I saw the face of someone who had made a choice that shattered everything we had worked for. And every time I tried to engage, to act as if nothing had changed, I felt this gnawing ache inside me, as if I were betraying myself by pretending. Work became a refuge. I threw myself into it more than usual, staying late, avoiding any real interaction with Angela. When I did come home, I'd retreat into my office, or bury myself in a book, anything to avoid the tension that seemed to hang in the air. I didn't know how to talk to her anymore. I didn't know how to act. And every time I saw her looking at me, hoping for some sign that things could go back to normal, I felt more lost. Angela, to her credit, didn't push me. She gave me space. But I could see the cracks in her mask, the way she would pause and stare at me when she thought I wasn't looking. As if she were waiting for something. What was she waiting for? I didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted either. One evening, about a week after our last conversation, Angela sat down next to me on the couch. I was flipping through channels mindlessly, but I could feel her presence beside me. She didn't say anything at first. She just sat there, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. The sound of the TV filled the silence, but it felt like noise in the background of a much larger conversation that wasn't happening. Finally, she broke the silence. "Do you want to talk?" Her voice was quiet, hesitant. The vulnerability in her words made something in me shift, but I wasn't ready. "I don't know if talking will help," I said honestly, my gaze never leaving the screen. "I don't know if anything can fix this." There was a long pause. I could hear the slight quiver in her breath, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt for being so distant. She didn't deserve this, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I could forgive her. I wasn't sure if I wanted to. I know I messed up, she said, her voice breaking slightly. But I love you, Franklin. I know that doesn't change anything right now. But I need you to know that I am truly, deeply sorry. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is ask for your forgiveness. I didn't know how to respond. I knew that forgiveness was the next step, the thing that could start healing the wounds between us. But I didn't know if I was ready for it. My mind kept replaying the images of her with someone else, of the lies she must have told herself to justify it. How do you forgive something like that? How do you move forward when the person you love has shattered your trust? I don't know, I murmured, almost to myself. I want to believe you, Angela. I want to forgive you, but I don't know how to do that. Angela reached out and took my hand. Her touch was gentle, and for a moment, I let myself feel it. I wasn't ready to let go of the anger, but the tenderness of her hand in mine made me realize that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. But maybe there was a path forward, even if it was one step at a time. "I'll wait," Angela said softly, her voice filled with quiet determination. "I'll wait as long as it takes, Franklin. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her touch. It wasn't an answer, not really. But it was the first step. Maybe that was all we needed for both of us to be willing to take the first step, even if we didn't know where it would lead. The next few weeks were difficult. There were no quick fixes, no sudden revelations that would make everything go back to normal. It was a slow, painstaking process, and there were days when I felt like giving up. There were days when I questioned whether it was even worth it, but there were also small moments of hope. Angela didn't push me for answers. She gave me space, but she also did everything she could to show me that she was committed to rebuilding our relationship. She came home early from work to cook dinner for us, and sometimes she would leave small notes around the house, apologizing once again and reminding me that she loved me. It wasn't enough to erase what had happened, but it was a start. I, on the other hand, struggled to open up. I knew that if we were ever going to move forward, I had to let go of the anger and the resentment, but I wasn't sure if I could. Every time I looked at Angela, I saw the woman who had betrayed me. The image of her with someone else still haunted me, and I wasn't sure how to let it go. But little by little, we started to talk more. It wasn't easy, but we began to have conversations, real conversations about what had happened, about our feelings, about how we could move forward. There were no easy answers, no magic words that would fix everything, but we were trying. We were both trying, and that, in itself, was progress. The days blurred together. Some were easier than others. There were mornings when I woke up feeling hopeful, thinking that maybe this time, things would be different. But by the afternoon, the weight of everything would hit me again. The betrayal would resurface, and I'd find myself retreating into myself once more. Angela tried her best to be patient, and I could see the effort in her every action. But there were moments when I couldn't ignore the elephant in the room, the guilt that had taken root in both of us. For her, it was the guilt of what she had done. For me, it was the guilt of not being able to forgive her as quickly as she hoped. I wanted to move forward, but it was hard to leave behind the lingering feelings of betrayal and hurt. One evening we sat on the couch, just like we had many times before. But this time, there was a different kind of energy in the air. It was like something had shifted, just slightly. We were still miles apart in terms of healing, but it felt like we were beginning to cross some of the distance. Angela had made one of her favorite dishes, and we ate in silence for a while. But the tension was different now. It wasn't suffocating. It was just there, waiting to be addressed. "Franklin," Angela said softly, setting her fork down and turning to face me. "I know I've been asking for your forgiveness, but I haven't really asked you how you feel." Her question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on the hurt I had been feeling, the anger and betrayal that had consumed me, that I hadn't really thought about how I felt in the context of all this. I had been living in a constant state of conflict, not knowing how to reconcile the love I had for Angela with the hurt she had caused me. "I don't know," I said honestly, running a hand through my hair. "I feel torn. Part of me wants to move past this, but another part of me is still so angry. I keep thinking about what you did, and I don't know how to shake it. I keep thinking about what you must have been feeling when it happened, and I can't understand it." Angela nodded, her eyes filled with understanding, but there was also an unmistakable sadness. I can't expect you to understand, Franklin. I've been trying to make sense of it myself, but I can tell you that I regret it every day, and that I'm doing everything I can to make it right." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to see her not as the person who had hurt me, but as the woman I had loved, the woman I still loved, even if I was struggling to admit it. "I don't want to hate you," I said quietly. "I don't want to keep holding on to this anger, but it's hard. It's so hard." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I know." There was a moment of silence between us, but it wasn't as suffocating as it had been before. This time, it felt like an opening, like the possibility of healing. Angela reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something. Something small, but something that could eventually grow. The following weeks were a series of small steps, but they were steps nonetheless. We began going to therapy together, something that I had resisted at first. I wasn't sure if it would help, but I was willing to try. The therapist we found was kind, patient, and non-judgmental, and that helped. Each session was uncomfortable in its own way, but it was also necessary. Angela and I started to unpack the events of the betrayal, not just the act itself, but everything that led up to it. We talked about our relationship, our individual insecurities, and how we had both contributed to the breakdown of our connection. It wasn't about placing blame. It was about understanding. I had spent so much time blaming Angela, but now I was beginning to see that we both had a part to play in what had happened. One of the hardest realizations was that I had stopped communicating with Angela long before the betrayal happened. I had become complacent, assuming that everything was fine when it wasn't. I had ignored the subtle signs of distance between us, the way we had stopped talking about our feelings, the way we had drifted into routine. It didn't justify what Angela did, but it explained how we had gotten there. For her part, Angela admitted that she had felt neglected, that she had been yearning for connection and validation that I had stopped providing. She had made a terrible decision, but she was also a person who had been struggling in her own way, and that was something I hadn't truly understood before. It didn't make the betrayal okay, but it gave me a new perspective on the situation. "Franklin," she said during one of our therapy sessions, "I know I can't erase what happened, but I want to prove to you that I can be the person you thought I was. I want to earn back your trust, and I want to rebuild what we had." I looked at her, my heart heavy, but full of a cautious hope. "I'm not there yet, Angela. I'm still angry. I still feel hurt, but I'm willing to try. I don't know if we can fix everything, but I don't want to give up on us, not yet." The process of rebuilding wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like we were making progress, and other days when the wounds felt too fresh to move forward. But there was something that kept us going, something that kept me from giving up. It was the love we had shared, the connection that was still there, even if it was buried beneath the pain. It wasn't going to be an overnight fix. It wasn't going to be easy. But for the first time in months, I felt like we were both finally on the same page. We were both fighting for the same thing, a chance to heal, to rebuild, to make our relationship stronger than it had been before. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. It was an unseasonably warm day for October when I finally worked up the courage to talk to Angela again. The awkwardness between us had become unbearable. I had spent the past few weeks trying to find the right words, but every time I thought I had it figured out, doubt would creep in. Would she even want to hear from me? Did she feel betrayed? Would she be willing to rebuild what we once had? I couldn't answer any of those questions, but I knew one thing for sure. I needed to try. Angela was sitting at the kitchen table when I came in. She looked up from the newspaper she was reading, her expression unreadable. For a brief moment, I thought she might walk out of the room, but instead, she simply nodded toward the chair opposite her. "Sit down, Franklin." I hesitated but obeyed. The silence between us felt like a chasm, but I had to cross it. "I've been thinking a lot," I began, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm inside me. "About everything. About us." Angela's eyes met mine, but her face remained neutral. "And? I know what I did was unforgivable, Angela," I said, my throat tight. "I lied. I made decisions without consulting you, without respecting what we had, and I hurt you in ways I can never fully make up for." I paused, watching her face for any hint of reaction. I was selfish. I wanted everything my way, and I thought I could fix things without even realizing I was breaking them. She sighed, her shoulders slumping, as if the weight of everything that had happened finally caught up with her. You know, Franklin, I always thought I could trust you. When we decided to adopt, it was because I believed in us, in what we could build together. But you broke that trust. You turned everything upside down, and now I'm left wondering if any of it was ever real. I clenched my fists, fighting the wave of guilt that threatened to drown me. It was real, I said, my voice quieter now. I swear, Angela, I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could handle it all on my own. But I see now that I was wrong. I should have told you everything, and I should have never kept you in the dark. I'm so sorry. Angela didn't respond immediately. Instead, she reached for her coffee cup, her fingers trembling just slightly as she took a sip. She looked out the window, staring at the empty yard beyond, lost in thought. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. I don't know, Franklin. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I want to go down this road with you. I wanted to believe in our family, in the life we were building, but it feels like it's all falling apart. Maybe it's already too late for us. Her words cut through me like a blade, and I felt my chest tighten with the weight of what I had done. For a moment, I thought I might lose her completely, but then something in me snapped. I couldn't give up. Not yet. I know it's not going to be easy, Angela, I said, leaning forward, my voice stronger now, but I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose everything we've worked for. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust, even if it takes years. But please, don't give up on us yet. We can start over. We can fix this. She looked at me then, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and doubt. I don't know, Franklin. I just don't know if I can ever forgive you. I understand, I whispered, but I need you to know that I'll be here, no matter how long it takes. I'll do everything I can to prove to you that I'm worth the second chance. We can take it slow, one day at a time. And if you can't forgive me, I'll accept that. But I can't walk away without trying. She stayed silent for a long moment, her eyes never leaving mine. Finally, she stood up and walked to the window, gazing out into the distance. Her back was to me, and I couldn't read her expression. I held my breath, waiting for a sign that she wasn't going to shut me out completely. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Franklin, she said quietly, almost to herself. But I guess we'll see. It wasn't the answer I'd hoped for, but it was something, a small glimmer of hope in the darkness. I nodded, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. That's all I can ask for. In the days that followed, things didn't magically improve. Angela was distant, and while there was no open hostility, the cracks in our relationship were painfully obvious. Every conversation felt like navigating a minefield. We tiptoed around each other, neither of us wanting to say the wrong thing, yet both of us aching with the weight of unspoken words. I tried to give her space, but it was hard. I wanted to fix everything, to make it all better, but I knew that wasn't something I could do overnight. It was going to take time, something I hadn't realized before. Something I hadn't been prepared for. We still went through the motions. We ate dinner together, talked about trivial things like the weather, and made small talk about our jobs. But there was always a layer of tension that hung in the air, a reminder that our world had changed, and neither of us knew how to rebuild it. One evening, after a particularly quiet dinner, Angela broke the silence. Franklin, she said, her voice soft but firm. I've been thinking. I didn't dare interrupt. I just waited, hoping she would continue. I know things are complicated right now, she began, her eyes focused on her plate. And I know I've been distant, but I don't want to pretend like everything's fine when it's not. I can't just forgive you right away. It's going to take time, a lot of time. I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. I understand. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I just want the chance to prove that I can make things right. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. I don't know what that looks like, Franklin. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were, and I'm not sure if I even want to. Those words stung more than I expected, but I forced myself to stay calm. I'm not asking you to forget everything that happened. I'm just asking for a chance to rebuild slowly, carefully. She looked at me then, her expression softer than before. I don't know if we can ever be what we were, Franklin, but I am willing to try. If you're willing to wait. I felt a surge of relief, though it was tempered by the uncertainty of the road ahead. This wasn't a happy ending. This wasn't even a resolution. But it was something, a small, fragile step forward. I'm willing to wait, I said quietly. For as long as it takes. Months passed. We took things one day at a time, rebuilding trust in the smallest of ways. There were moments when it felt like we were making progress, when Angela would smile at me without hesitation, or when we would share a laugh over something silly. But there were also setbacks. Times when the tension would return, and we would retreat into our separate corners. We didn't talk about the adoption much. It still hung over us, that dream we had once shared of becoming parents. It felt like an impossible dream now, one that had been shattered by my mistake. But every so often, Angela would mention it in passing, and I would hold on to those moments as if they were the lifeline that would pull us through. The road to recovery wasn't easy, but with each passing day, I felt a little more hopeful. I knew that we were a long way from where we once were, but I also knew that the chance to try again was worth fighting for. And in the quiet moments, when Angela would look at me, and I would catch a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, I realized that maybe we would be okay after all. Not the same as before, but maybe something new, something stronger, built from the ashes of what had burned. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.